everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. As always, thank you for joining us. Losing the lawfare bet. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, faking visceral, even sexual excitement is something talented actors do well.
Most women at one time or another have faked it.
Well, they haven't faked it with me.
How do you know?
Because I know.
Yes! Yes! Oh! 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 Oh, God. Oh.
I'll have what she's having.
All right, last night, when describing Stormy Daniels' appearance in the courtroom, the only thing MSNBC's Larry O'Donnell didn't do was bang on the counter and moan like, Meg Ryan. But the same message, you got it.
Well, the excitement and anticipation in the room hit a new high at 10:32 a.m. She entered wearing all black, as if on her way to a funeral. The loose-fitting, plain black clothing draping from her shoulders to her toes suggested the modesty of a nun. The makeup was minimal, the way she and the other moms in her neighborhood might look when shopping at the local grocery store. The long blonde hair held up with a clip at the back of her head.
Okay, his Stormy bit with the forced dramatic pauses and the romance novel quality writing is only one of countless ways that the media have tried to whip up this excitement, orgasmic excitement, against this dog of a case. A former porn star is now their Trump slayer.
They essentially got in character evidence about how slimy Donald Trump is. Who can unring the bell in their mind of Donald Trump waiting till she comes out of the bathroom and plopping on the bed in his boxers? Who can get the image of him answering the door in his satin jams out of their mind? They can't do that. So this was very effective.
Sounds like he's the one who can't get it out of his mind. That's amazing, though. Does that dimwit even realize that he's applauding, as a member of the bar, an unethical trial practice? But again, standards of relevance, prejudicial testimony, conflicts of interest, those are out the window and have been since day one. The main players for the prosecution and Judge Merchan seem willing to sacrifice the integrity of the entire New York judicial system if there's even a scintilla of a chance that they can get a conviction and the mugshot that they've fantasized about all these months. But thankfully, fair-minded Americans, they're seeing this for what it is. It's a process designed to wound Trump, to keep him off the trail and embarrass him personally. But it backfired. And yesterday, the porn princess ended up embarrassing both the prosecution and herself.
The cross-exam, boy, her responses were disastrous. I mean, do you hate Donald Trump? Yes, of course she does. That's a big deal. When the witness hates the person whose liberty is at stake, that's a big damn deal. And she's putting out tweets, fantasizing about him being in jail. That really undermines the credibility.
And speaking of cratering credibility, by allowing a totally irrelevant but sordid witness to blather on about her rendezvous with Trump, Judge Merchan may very well have tainted the jury pool.
What was baffling is that the judge created this dumpster fire that went off in his courtroom. It was the defense that said there's no reason for this witness. She's not material to the case. The details of their alleged tryst doesn't have any bearing on the crime. The NDA is not being contested. The question is how it was denoted as a legal expense. So the testimony was entirely irrelevant.
Well, this is the point the Angle made last night. Why did Judge Merchan, again, he's not biased, he's not politically tainted himself, why did he allow this? Well, I'll let you stew on that. But this is why choosing lawfare strategy, it just was a loser in the first place. A judge isn't compelled to set a trial schedule, right, to best facilitate one party's election hopes. And late yesterday, that very special prosecutor, Jack Smith, learned that Judge Eileen Cannon is postponing the classified docs case indefinitely. Of course, it couldn't begin on May 20th, as it was originally scheduled, because the Manhattan case probably won't even be wrapped by then. And she has other cases already on her docket. That's a fact that escapes the puny minds of the people criticizing this. But of course, the pundocrats, they're melting down.
I continue to be disappointed by Aileen Cannon and her execution of the role of federal jurist here.
There's no excuse for what this judge has done. I do think it's a mix of incompetence and bias.
You have the most important case, and it's with a judge who's going to make sure it never sees the light of day.
Well, that's not what she said, Joe. It's time to sign up for some CLE classes, buddy. That's continuing legal education. Now, one by one, the cases that they thought would substitute for an actual Biden campaign, well, those cases are collapsing. And there's even a chance that a higher court could take the load off Fani. The Georgia Court of Appeals has agreed to review Trump's bid to disqualify Fani Willis 2 months after the motion was rejected by that Judge Scott McAfee. Well, that translates into potentially more delays of her fraudulent case. Her relationship with Nathan Wade may be on ice, but her love affair with herself, well, that's still going strong.
People keep wondering, how does she keep getting back up to do her job, and why does she even want to get back up to do their job? Fulton County does deserve me as their DA. How does she keep going? It's a miracle. A year ago, Democrats and their press apparatchiks misled their viewers into believing that Trump would be paralyzed and unable to function because of this web of legal cases that would eventually overwhelm him and then sway the public back to Biden, even if the economy was in the dumper. Well, they thought that they could hide Biden's decrepit physique, his depleted mind, and his failing policies. But it's not working. Now they've just devolved into a sputtering mess.
Everything you care about, guys, is on the line in Donald Trump's conduct in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. That trial will not happen.
Bottom line is, I don't think between now and the election that this case, which is the strongest case and is incredibly serious to this nation's national security, is going to see the light of day because of this judge doing the wrong thing.
What does the Biden campaign effectively, are they able to do? Are they able to make something out of this case that's not going to be heard in a court of law?
How many therapy dogs do they need to have? Send a whole bunch. I almost feel sorry for them. Then I stop and I say, heck no, because they could have demanded a campaign on the issues that matter most to Americans, but they did not. Instead, they chose to go along with what ultimately is a subversion of the normal election process by this cynical, deeply American path of this effort to jail a political nemesis. That was a terrible gamble and will turn out to be a very costly bet. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.